Hello everyone, this is Thiago talking from Brazil, and today we're going to talk about some key corporate aspects to be observed when incorporating a company here in Brazil. The main corporate types used in Brazil are the limitadas, which resembles the US LLC, and the Sociedade Anônima, which resembles the US corporation. Both corporate types give some sort of freedom to contract to investors, but there are certain rules and restrictions that must be observed as mainly described in Brazilian Civil Code and Brazilian Corporate Law. The most popular corporate type is the limitada, due to its flexibility and simplicity, and is mainly used by companies that don't have to or don't need to raise funds from the public. But even though it's suitable from the small business to a big wholly owned subsidiary here in Brazil. On the other hand, the Sociedade Anônima can give greater flexibility on equity, for instance, with allowance to issue preferred shares, ordinary shares, and having restrictions on voting rights. That is something that is not allowed in the limitada, and on debt, for instance, with the issuance of debentures, that's something that is also not allowed for the limitada. But for the Sociedade Anônima, there are additional procedures to be observed that are not required for the limitadas. In both corporate types, a key part on the time for the incorporation is the activity that is going to be performed by the company, but in general it can take from 30 to 90 days at least to have the base license permits of the company. But again, it's important to emphasize that it can vary a lot depending on the activities that's going to be performed by the company and other specifications to be observed on a case-by-case basis. Now going for some details on the incorporation of the companies, let's talk first about the corporate name, which is protected on a state level once you have the corporate documents filed with the local board of commerce. The trademark, on the other hand, must be registered with the Brazilian Trademark Agency. Address is another key point to be observed, as it must be suitable to the activities to be performed by the company, even during a non-operational period. Talk about the activities, it's a key part to be understood in details when incorporating a company in Brazil, as it could entail a wide number of license permits for the operation of the company, and also certain restrictions additional procedures to be observed. For instance, in Brazil, we cannot have a broad corporate purpose like any lawful activity. Here we must specify the activity that's going to be performed by the company. For instance, production of auto parts, rendering of service, and so on. So you must be specific on what the company is going to do here in Brazil. And also very important, once depending on what you use as activity, is also going to entail some license permits, more or less directly linked to that. Other point that is important is the capital. As a general rule, there is no minimum capital for limitadas nor for Sociedades Anônimas, but there are exceptions, so you must observe on a case by case. The capital of the limitada is represented by quotas, which are nominal and registered in the company's articles of association. And in the Sociedade Anônima, the capital is represented by shares, which is also nominal and registered in the company's registered books or with the custody agents. For the incorporation of the company, you must have, for the limitadas, at least 2 partners, unless you are a Eireli, that is a specific form of limitada. And in the Sociedade Anônima, you must have 2 shareholders at least. The representation of the company is restricted to the officers of the company. So if you are a shareholder or partner, you could represent the company only if you are an individual and if you are appointed as an officer of the company. Now, also important to emphasize that to be an officer, you must reside in Brazil. So if you're a Brazilian, reside in Brazil, it's okay. But if you're a foreigner, you must reside in Brazil, and for that purpose, you must have a proper visa issued on your behalf. We also have the figure of the board of directors here. That could be foreigners or Brazilian citizens. There is no record on residence in Brazil, but if you are a foreigner, you must appoint a local representative resident in Brazil to execute the documents on your behalf. So, to set all that, it's important to have a smooth incorporation of the company in Brazil, understand your business, have a good advisor, and also properly draft all your corporate documents so you can have your business running smoothly and properly here in Brazil.